If you were to wake up a farmer in the middle of their sleep and ask them, what are you worried about? They will most likely tell you, I'm worried that I may not find someone to buy my produce at a fair price. And if I find, they may not pay me on time. We have two solutions. One is cold storage. The other part of our business is market access. This is a digitally enabled market. They have never had someone treat them with the level of dignity that we treated them. So for me, success is making the best use of my gifts and talents for humanity.
The stories we tell shape the systems we live in. Welcome to the Green Times Redefining Success. We believe that impact entrepreneurship is the most exciting and defining business model of our time, and much needed. My name is Kiki Boreel. I'm a fashion model turned circularity expert and transition lover. And in this podcast, I'll be talking with innovative founders that are reshaping our economy. What are they building? What can we learn from them? And what keeps them up at night? We'll be starting in East Africa, where the entrepreneurial ecosystem is growing. In the Green Times Redefining Success, we will bring you the stories that matter. Today, I speak with Dennis Karima, the founder of SokoFresh, a Kenyan agri-tech company providing solar-powered cold storage and logistics services for smallholder farmers. What makes his story personal is where it starts. Dennis' grandma was a farmer. He saw firsthand how hard people worked on the land, yet how little progress was made over time. In 2019, Dennis founded SokoFresh as a venture of Dutch venture building studio NVU. Since launch, SokoFresh has built a network of cold storage hubs that helps farmers to reduce waste and improve income. Welcome, Dennis, to the podcast.
Thank you, Kiki, for having me.
We're very happy to have you here. Obviously, we talked, and I know a little bit about you, and you know a little bit about the podcast.
Yeah.
But before we dive into what you do, we dive into you a little bit. We want to get to know you a bit better, and that starts with you telling me you were a curious child. How were you different from the people around you?
So I think, I grew up in a rural town called Moranga. I think I was always a bit different. I think like my mom thought I was quite cheeky, but...
Did she like that, or was it hard for her?
No, sometimes I got quite some, we used to, I got into trouble for that. But I was always curious about things like what happens outside our small town, what happens in the city, what happens in the world. How do I, what will I amount to in my life? I used to have such monologues often with myself when I was young. I really wanted to have a life that counts, even though I didn't know what that will actually be.
And I remember you also told me you were ambitious, you were reading a lot, you were curious, but you also put it in action. You were like, I'm not going to this school, I want to go to a different school.
Yes.
Where did you go?
Yeah, so it's quite an interesting story. So in Kenya, when you are done with your primary school levels, you can apply to go to a high school, depending on the marks that you get. But you do the application way before the exam. So I remember when you're given the list of schools to choose from. So there are national schools and county schools, etc. So I was very focused on going to a national school because that's where you get the best public education.
Yeah.
But then I chose the ones farthest from home. So I chose one in Kisumu. It's called Maseno. I chose another one in Kabarak. And it's because I think I was also just tired of just living with people who we all speak the same native language. I don't know the culture, and I'm curious about the culture of other people. So I did well in my exams, and the letter came from Maseno. And I remember my mom was like, no, you can't go there. Nobody in your entire lineage has ever stepped foot in that part of the country. Those people, there are quite some myths and some thoughts about how people live in other parts of the country. They're like, no, you can't go there. But I was like, I worked hard for this. This is the school I'm going to.
Because she didn't think it was safe, or she didn't want to lose you, or she just didn't want you that far away.
Yes. I think she felt it was far.
Yeah.
Because it's a whole night travel, like you get in the bus at 6 p.m. and arrive the following morning. Secondly, she didn't know anyone. None of her friends or none of her relatives lived in that part of the country. And that for me was really a win because it helped me to, one, fulfill some of the curiosity I already had, and just open up my mind to how do people live in northeastern Kenya? How do people live in the coasts? What are some of the challenges? What are some of the practices, cultural practices? How are we different? Yeah.
And then after high school, you came to Nairobi.
Yes.
You went to which university again? Can you remember?
I studied in Kenyatta University for my undergraduate and then University of Nairobi for my master's degree.
And you weren't like a student that was just doing, let me get an average that is just above average so I can pass to the next class again.
Yes.
You were doing more than just studying.
Yeah, so when I was in high school, again, you get to choose which course you can study. You get to choose the universities. So computer science was the course that I chose. It was also a strange course, especially for my parents. So when my results came out, and I remember having a conversation with my mom and one of her brothers who was a doctor, and she's like, these results can make you a doctor. So you have to go and change. What is this computer science? Like you just be sitting there type. Like I think the mindset was also maybe you just become like, it's like a typewriter. The work is typing.
You don't work with people anymore. You become a computer.
And maybe there is not a big feature because tech was not so elaborate in parts of Kenya, like where I came from. But for me, I really was curious to see how computers would shape the world. And I thought, this is what I want to study. And so that's what I went and studied.
Was it always, were you like, I want to become successful in business, or was it just also something that just is in you?
Yeah, I think my motivation actually was I want to make a difference in my lifetime. So that's the underlying. But then I asked myself, so I think there were probably in my head, there were two pathways to do that. Either you go into like governance and making laws, or you become an entrepreneur. So I didn't want the first one because I hadn't seen a lot of success in those who've tried going that path. But then being an entrepreneur means that I actually could make a real difference and hopefully build something scalable and profitable that lives longer than me. I would read about especially like companies from Japan that were a century old. But then they started with someone who took initiative and then built the right structures, and then they become intergenerational. So that was the mindset that I had then. It's still how I view life. I think we have quite a big inventory of challenges in this part of the world that can be solved through business. There are obviously some that need, I would say, philanthropy. But there are some that there is a business case, but you need to really dig deep to find the right sort of product market fit.
Because it needs to also be, you need to make money with it and do good.
Yes. Yeah.
Otherwise, it's not going to survive.
Yes.
Yeah. And how did you take that step? Because you were entrepreneurial in spirit, you were curious, but how did you take that into the business world?
Yeah, so when I graduated, I was fortunate enough to just get a job almost immediately. But then it wasn't an entrepreneurial job; it was an IT job. A bit boring, but I was like, maybe to help me to learn just how people live in the corporate sort of sector.
Yeah.
And in my second year of that job, they rolled out an innovation competition. They really wanted to figure out what are some ideas that can push this global company into the next phase of its growth. And I just came up with some thoughts and submitted.
This was for the company you were working for?
Yes, this was for the company I was working for. And for East Africa, only 2 ideas were shortlisted in that innovation call, and they both came from me. And I think that for me then reminded me what my path in life was. It was really I had this gift to really think innovatively and build quickly like a sort of business model for something that could work. Because this was like the competition was being run from the head office in France, and they were like, okay, these two ideas really are suitable.
It sounds like you also had quite a good career going there. Like,
Mhm.
why didn't you stay?
I didn't get the support I needed to get the ideas to life.
Mm.
Yeah. I
They
think
stayed ideas.
yes, I think I was too disruptive for the bureaucracy in that kind of environment. And so I was like, I need to find a space where I can actually get ideas to life. So moved from that kind of setting, worked quite a lot in both consulting and also in the accelerator space. So supporting and working alongside entrepreneurs, because I was like, if I can help entrepreneurs really fine tune, think of their business model and build their solutions much faster, that's a better contribution.
Didn't you feel like, so I think sometimes it is hard to get enthusiastic about a sector where you're like, yeah, I can make you a business model, but I'm not that interested, and there's other people that are more interested in. Are you just interested in a lot of different sectors, or were you just so interested in building the business plan that it didn't matter for?
Yeah, I think so. Again, there's like I would say I have a talent where I can connect the dots regardless of the sector. So if you are working on like a spacecraft or you are working on plastics, I can sit down and with the right kind of data help figure out what could be an opportunity for that business.
Where does your confidence come from?
I think it's just a God-given gift.
Okay, so sorry. So you were in different
Yeah,
sectors.
so I was in different sectors. Well, I think the common thing was I met a lot of passionate change makers, very diverse but very enriching. And then I transitioned to NVU. So the reason for the transition was, one, NVU was really looking for someone to join their team who could come up with business models across different sectors. So they had themes around agriculture, around textiles, financial inclusion.
Is there a venture building?
Yes, they are a venture building studio. And that's exactly what I was doing. I was working with people in fintech and other spaces. So I thought this, and then the sort of the vision attracted me because we are looking at how do you build solutions that can impact 100 million people. So that was a bit different from companies that I worked with that were really specific to their geography or to a very specific smaller sector. So these 100 million people meant you have to think regional. So, and remember, I'm the guy who doesn't want to be in the village. I want to be able to see how the world works. So I think it was a compelling vision to join them, to start looking at, like if it's agriculture, what are the issues around sub-Saharan Africa, and how can we build models that are replicable in different markets? If it's textiles, what are the challenges around textiles in Kenya? Are they the same in Ethiopia, in Tanzania? And the issue of replication was also something I really wanted to learn. How do you build a business model that you can replicate across different markets? Obviously, there are some different dynamics with some of the markets, but there is a basis that you can use to replicate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so you dove into the textile market?
Yeah.
And the agricultural market?
Yes.
And what did you find?
Yeah, so in textiles, I found there's obviously a lot of post-production textile wastes. There is no optimal solution for it. But there were also like people there was someone with a patent that and some process that can be able to bring these textiles back into yarn that can make sustainable fabric. So it was really how do you bring together the wastes, the patent owner, and someone who has a factory that can run that process. And so that was an easier problem to solve once we had those three parties in place and aligned everything. On food, however,
you're like, I don't do easy.
Yes. Food, you see, textile is concentrated to a small geography. You're trying to solve problems for some of the biggest brands because they are the ones that outsource production to countries like Kenya, Ethiopia, etc. But food is like maybe out of every 7 people in Africa, 7 out of every 10 they are either directly working in agriculture or indirectly working in agriculture. So this was a way to be able to build something that has way more potential for scale, way more potential for impact, but then also an extremely difficult space to be in.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but we started looking into specifically post-harvest loss, because again, when you look at markets like here in Africa, before the food gets to your shelf, like half of it has been lost somewhere in that supply chain from harvest.
Yeah.
And that should not be acceptable. We sort of generally accept it because we have infrastructure challenges, market fragmentation, etc. But that provided a big opportunity to really solve for the income lost without even planting any additional seed. Before we go into way more, let's increase production. Let's first fix the wastage, because you could be like, if you think about it, it's like you're trying to find more taps to come put water in a tank, but then the tank has a big hole. Like, let's first deal with the hole.
So you see the harvest loss as the whole.
Yes. So I found the capacity building was quite well structured, but a market solution for most of the supply chains was still missing. The capacity building was okay, but I still saw that when you ask a farmer who's come from a training on how to safeguard their produce, they're like, yes, I've been trained on how to store my cereals quite well, but I still this harvest that is coming, I still don't know what I'm going to do, because you can't store things forever.
No.
You need to be able to have a complete chain. So you need to be able to know, I will store in these conditions for this number of days. Someone will come and buy. This is most likely the price that they will pay me. That price enables me to meet my cost and have a certain margin. You know, the way like agriculture in countries like the Netherlands, the farmer knows the entire outcome even before they plant the seed. I would say when you look at the cold storage capacity in the Netherlands, it's like 1,000 times more than the capacity you have in Kenya. So if you wanted not to sell your potatoes, you could also have stored them. There's also potential to process them and store them as processed. So here, the farmer is really left to try and improvise and come up with whatever the solution. So
and do that themselves rather than having partners to work with. And so when you were diving into the issue of agriculture, you were obviously looking in your own surroundings. Were you indeed also already looking what is happening in the Netherlands, what is happening in Germany, what is happening in Tunisia? Like, were you trying to find different countries?
Yes. So I think in the methodology also that we're using for NVU, we're looking for I would say inspiration from across the globe. So and because I like reading, I would go and read essays and articles from especially India, because India has quite a similar, I would say, economic status sometimes to like parts of Kenya. So, but I saw how cold storage specifically was useful in value chains like potatoes and tomatoes, the government influence and incentives towards preservation and structuring the markets and the outcomes of it. So I would look at more advanced markets. Obviously, Netherlands is the benchmark. If you want to do agriculture, the Netherlands has figured it out well.
Even though there are some issues there still to talk about.
The issues are there. Here, our issues, we could speak until tomorrow and not cover all of them. Obviously, intensive agriculture in countries like the Netherlands has its issues because you're also doing sort of growing one thing in an expansive piece of land, trying to get the soil to get you high productivity by using synthetic or any other kinds of fertilizers. And at some point there will be trade-offs you have to make, because the soil cannot keep producing with this kind of inputs. You have to start thinking, how do we go to regenerative agriculture? How do we actually take care of the soil health? But then the trade-off is that you move from maybe 10, I don't know how many bags of potatoes you get per acre, it might end up being half. Or it might end up being that the soil needs quite some time to be able to regenerate before, or you need to do crop rotation. So there are realities of what's happening in the soils that sometimes are pushed until they are inevitable to fix. And that's unfortunately the case for highly mechanized, professionally done farms like yours. Here in Kenya, it's very different, but still soil health is a big issue because when you're not making enough from the sale of your harvest, then if you find a herbicide that is burnt everywhere else, but you can spray it and not have to hire people to till your land and remove the weeds, then you just spray it. So, but it's out of desperation. It's not out of choice. So, and that's part of why we have to, in our solution, we didn't only want to preserve the produce, we wanted to find farmers a decent, dependable market. Because if you were to wake up a farmer in the middle of their sleep and ask them, what are you worried about? They will most likely tell you, I'm worried that I may not find someone to buy my produce at a fair price. And if I find, they may not pay me on time. So that's really the heart of solving a problem for the farmer completely.
So you start from the farmer.
Yes.
And that's also personal to you, I know, because your grandma was a farmer as well.
Yes.
What did she teach you?
Yeah, so I think my grandma used to tell me, I ask her so many questions, but I spent most of my school holidays at her farm, and she had a few cows, tea, coffee. We were more of like free labor. So would be shipped there, dumped there to do whatever we are supposed to do. So pick the tea, go take care of the cows, which is basically walking around with a cow the whole day, hoping that it will feed enough to give milk. But then over time...
Smart woman, your grandma.
Yeah, you're like one kid per cow and you send them away. There are no gadgets. One of the questions I kept asking her is like, why don't you stop all this? Like, I don't see you making progress economically. Like, I don't think you have enough money. Even though you have free labor from us, it doesn't actually help you in sort of economic mobility. But then
and she did want to have that.
Yes, she wanted to. Yeah, she wanted like anyone else. She wanted to live a more decent life. But what she told me is she only went, I think, to 4th grade in her primary school. So she didn't have a decent education. All she had was the land. And that's how most rural people perceive, the only opportunity I have is to be a farmer, because I can't go and look for a clerical job. I can't even speak in English. If you put a computer before me, I don't even know how to start it. And so that's the reality of the farming community. And so I have to look at, because land is what they have, how can they optimize it to at least be able to have a livable income?
Yeah. And that's when NVU and SokoFresh came in.
Yes.
What was the switch where you were like, now I have something. This is going to be something?
Yeah. I think a number of events. So I remember spending time in a part of Kenya called Kajiado, and I visited this farmer group, and they had built this beautiful charcoal cooler to cool their produce. And one of the challenges they're having is the cost of water, because you have to keep pouring water on the charcoal cooler, hoping that it will cool whatever you have inside. And then I got to see a few other improvised solutions for trying to cool and aggregate produce. And I was like, I think this is it. Because if people already came together, built this structure, are here trying to pour water and trying to cool, they are obviously trying to solve a problem. They know how much this problem cost them. And then I also had conversations with some of the market actors. And I remember speaking with a big organization that works with smallholder farmers and contracts them to grow French beans. And they're explaining to me just how much of a logistics nightmare not having farm level aggregation is, because it means you have to send the truck to the farms every single day, regardless of how much has been harvested. So sometimes they would send their 5-ton truck and they come back with 200 kilos of French beans.
Yeah.
The next day, they send a smaller truck because yesterday they didn't pick a lot, and then they find it's 7 tons.
Yeah.
So some of the farmers are told, the truck is full. We can't be able to take your produce. And the produce cannot last an extra day if it's not in temperature control. So a lot of logistics costs, a lot of frustrations for both the off-taker, who has no visibility on how much is aggregated, and the farmer who feels, I harvested, I grew and harvested my produce. Why did you bring a smaller truck? Yeah. So then I was like, there's something here. There's an opportunity to actually plug in a solution that can be paid for by the off-taker, the aggregator, because the aggregator, when we did the math for how much they were spending on just transportation, it was enough to be able to pay the monthly fee of a cold storage dedicated to that group of farmers. So I didn't even need to charge the farmers for the solution. They could use it, come store their produce, and their buyer would be the one paying me.
So win-win-win. Why wasn't it there yet?
Because the companies that existed in the cold storage space were all, I would say, hardware vendors. They all had the mindset, I have to come to you as a farmer and sell you this infrastructure. And yet, the farmer does not have the money to buy it.
No.
And if you go to this aggregator, the capex, they would rather invest it in logistics or in buying inputs for their seeds. They don't have the money also. So there was a liquidity gap that meant that there were very few people willing to take on these solutions, even though they knew the solutions would help. So by bringing the solution and positioning it as a service, so you don't need to own the cold storage as the off-taker. You, the farmers, don't need to own it. I will own it. I will take responsibility to make sure that it's working, and you only pay a fee to access it.
So what's the risk?
For them.
For you?
For me, the risk is that I am investing in an expensive asset that has a 4-year payback period without certainty that I will get paid or there will be demand all through. So that's the risk that I had to take. It's almost like Uber for aggregation of produce. The fact that you don't need to own a car to move around. So that's
just
the same.
A user.
Yes. And then also taking the risk that I am responsible for the optimal functioning of this asset every single day. And I need to do it in a very cost-efficient manner so that I can be able to also make a profit.
And because I really want to dive into also how the business model then works a little bit more. But you were trusted to do this from NVU. You came up with the name SokoFresh, which I think is also a nice story. How did you come up with the name?
So I told my colleague Paul, and now we have the business concept, but it needs a name. Like, we have to name it. So I told him, give me a day, I'll go home, think over it, and tomorrow I'm gonna come up with a name. So I went home, I started thinking, like, what are the main things we want to do? We've seen we have to create a marketplace. So, and then we have to keep the produce fresh. Because again, it's not, the farmers are not interested in a cold storage. They're just interested in keeping their produce fresh. Like, what job does the cold storage do? It keeps produce fresh. So then I combined the fresh, and Soko is Swahili for market, and the market, and came up with SokoFresh.
That's my new Swahili word.
Yes.
And you mentioned Paul. Now, I called Paul, and I asked him about you, and he showed me this.
Hi, Dennis. I wanted to leave you a short note as you're going into an interview with the Green Times. We started our journey with you. I think you joined in 2018, shortly after I joined MVU. Yeah, with you, I always saw, and I think you keep on proving that it's amazing how you are with people, and you are as good with the farmers and getting them along and tending to what they need and how they can really get on board, as well as in the boardroom with the financiers. I think everybody, you're amazing in getting people along and getting people to also really invest in their time and their efforts into this amazing thing that we're doing with SokoFresh. I think we sort of skipped the crazy entrepreneur part and found a really good CEO, and I think you take on that role as a leader really well. I know the times are not always easy, and we're still sort of always, when you're doing something completely new, pedaling against the current, but you do it with such composure and a certain relaxedness that really helps people become confident in what we're trying to achieve. Yeah, and I would say we're still halfway, so I'm really looking forward to the next leg. And yeah, it's nice to also see you get this time in the spotlight, because you deserve it. And I think also with that, we give a good spotlight to the cause for which we started this, which is definitely a more healthy, a more sustainable, and a more equitable value chain with smallholder farms in Kenya.
You had a lot to say.
Yeah.
Do you recognize yourself?
Yes, I do.
What stood out to you?
I think the composure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's funny, that stood out to me as well. Like, he's saying from the outside, everything looks so small and you do it with such in such good composure.
Mm-hmm.
Are you sometimes stressed?
Yes, many times.
Okay, you just don't show it.
Yeah, it's just, I think I try to do my best. And as long as I know I have done my level best, then I know I need to stay alive. And so, yeah, I won't let what I can't change for the day take away my joy.
You're good at letting things go as well.
Yes.
And another thing that stood out to me is that he was saying, you're good with everyone. You're such a good, you're good with the farmers, you're good with the people in the boardroom. Mm-hmm. Is that a skill you maybe have from your high school?
I think it's maybe just upbringing. Like, I think we are taught to respect everyone. The person sitting on the streets is as valuable as the person who is wearing a suit. So I've just found there is no need to sort of treat people with contempt so I try assume the best. Yeah. And I'm also an optimist. So even when I sit with a farmer, I'm like, this farmer could one day feed the village. That's what I'm thinking when I see them. Yeah.
And then finally, what stood out to me is that he said, you deserve this time in the spotlight. But when you came in, you said, I'm not really a guy for the spotlight. I'm going to give you the biggest spotlight of today. Because this is the section where you can pitch anything. So you can actually do it in the camera if you like. The idea is that you can pitch whatever you want to pitch. Yeah. An idea, a shout out, a song, a dance. This is your time. So the mic is yours.
Oh, awesome. Yeah, so if you are watching this or listening to this, Africa's food systems still having a lot of issues, but we as SokoFresh and other change makers are trying our best to come up with solutions that will be in the best interest of the farmers, of our supply chains, and of the continent. So I'm always on the lookout for people who want to partner with us in this journey. We have had great time with some of the backers of SokoFresh. We have some great shareholders, some great investors who have partnered with us in this journey. So if you are very interested in joining the cause for making post-harvest loss history, for making smallholder farmers to have livable incomes and actually catalyzing jobs in the agricultural space, please reach out to me or my team, and we'll be glad to have a conversation. Thank you for the opportunity to speak on the spotlight.
Yeah, of course. Thank you for taking that spotlight. You did really well. You mentioned you have a lot of investors and partners as well. I would love to know a little bit more of how the business is formed. How do you make your business? And I know you're you're turning profitable by the end of this year.
Yes.
So congratulations
Thank
about
you.
that. I would love to dive in a little bit into the numbers. Like,
Yes.
how does it work?
Yeah, so basically we have two solutions, distinct solutions. One is cold storage. So there are farmers who just need a cold storage. Their supply chain has already an off-taker and people supporting them on production. So we manufacture the cold storages here in Kenya, actually not very far from here, and provide them. These are solar-powered mobile cold rooms. We provide them either on a lease basis, on a pay-as-you-store, or on a lease to own. So we have flexible financing models for this cold storage. Those who never want to own the cold storage can just use it. You pay a monthly fee. So it comes down to about 2 shillings per kilo of produce stored. But then the benefit of using the cold storage is probably 10 shillings per kilo or more. So there is a very big ROI. And then we have market access. So this is primarily for...
So that's, you have the cold storage and then the other is the market access.
Yeah. So some farmers only know us for cold storage because that's the service that they access from us. We have quite a big footprint in Kenya. We already have our cold storages in 17 counties out of 47. We are currently also working on expanding our cold storage reach outside of Kenya. We do have some ongoing explorations in countries like Uganda and Ethiopia. And you have some great partners in the cold storage business. The cold storage business is one where there is very low operational cost because it's running purely on solar. And because it's a mobile solution, one cold storage will hold about 5,000 kilos of produce. We can bring it as close as possible to where the farmers are or where aggregation happens. So that's one part of our business. The other part of our business is market access. This is a digitally enabled market access solution. So this basically is to help farmers find a reliable, decent market for their produce. And
this is when you wake them up in the middle of the night.
Yes, this is where they're like, we are sorted. And also for them to be able to get a quick payment for the product that they have sold through us. So,
because that's an issue, right? There is an issue of when the one buying it can pay and when the farmer needs the money.
Yes. So we work with large scale buyers. Our buyers who typically pay after 30 days. The farmer needs their money today, at best yesterday. So, and we have a digital solution where we have all these farmers onboarded. We currently have about 19,000 farmers on our platform that we are able to serve. These farmers are in value chains like avocado, or some are in value chains like soybean, for example. So when we have the farmers bring in the produce and it's aggregated, we then are able to take those shipments of produce to our buyers. Our buyers who either use it for, like, they will either sell in the main markets or use it as raw material for producing like human food, because like soybean is a protein. So,
and your buyers are as global as a global citizen you want it to be.
Yes, our buyers are global. Some are in most of the markets in Africa and beyond. And really love the fact that we can deliver to them high volume of produce directly sourced from farmers and fully traceable, because we have a digital footprint for the produce. So here is where the issue comes, because the farmer wants to be paid today and the buyer can only pay us in like 30 days. We need to have a way to bridge that gap. So we have to find working capital solutions where we take in some debt that oftentimes is well priced, that we can be able to use to offset the payments of the farmer as we wait for payments from our large buyers. So that's why we've been working with Rabobank, Rabo Foundation on this, and a few other financiers, because they're able to give us access to this working capital. Their working capital makes it possible for farmers to get paid immediately they have delivered their produce, which is a big win for them. And all this is done through mobile money. So we have M-Pesa integrated. SokoFresh, one of the investors in SokoFresh is Safaricom. So we have had the privilege to be able to embed M-Pesa on our service. And so those are the two distinct services. So some farmers will get both the cold storage to aggregate their produce, and once the produce is aggregated, we are able to find a market for it. And others who either get just the market or the cold storage.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then what are some of the challenges you are facing to scale?
Yeah, so a number of challenges. So one is on just the quantum of working capital that we can be able to unlock.
Yeah.
So, for example, in this year, our working capital needs are about $5 million. But because most of the working capital has to be backed by like assets, collateral. So the collateral here is the cold storages. So our cold storage can only back working capital of about $1.5 million.
Yeah.
So it means that we still have a shortage of working capital. So we've been trying to figure out how do we move beyond collateralized working capital, because there are more farmers that we have onboarded. They have the produce, and we can't get enough working capital to be able to pay them.
Yeah.
The other challenge, obviously, is the fact that sometimes there are issues to do with production that farmers face. Sometimes there are pests and other diseases that impact on the productivity of those farmers,
Yeah.
meaning that the farmers will have a lower yield per acre. And yet we have big commitments in terms of the offtake, because we start with securing the offtake, hoping the farmers will produce well. We have been able to work specifically on like agronomy work. We have a great partner called TechnoServe. They are an amazing non-profit. We leverage on their agronomists to be able to support our farmers.
Yeah.
Because then as we don't have enough financial resources to be able to pay for agronomy services for those farmers, but they are non-profits that have that expertise. So we are able to leverage on that. And I think the other one now currently is really looking at when I think about regional expansion, I need to be able to secure the equity needed to be able to test our model, like in Uganda, in Ethiopia.
Because it might be really different there.
Yes, it might be really different, but the sort of the capital is a bit scarce.
Yeah.
And
so for that, you're looking for partners or investors.
Equity investors.
Equity
Yes.
investors.
Yeah. So one of the biggest challenge I found is it's taking at least 1 year to be able to find an investor and go through the journey with them until they make an investment.
Yeah.
That's a big opportunity lost. If entrepreneurs who are in some markets like in Europe could have closed this deal within a month or two, but here it takes much longer.
Wow.
I think there are fewer providers of capital. There is also, I think there is a risk. There are many more risks perceived in our markets that make it very difficult to get to the point where I and the investors are going to come to a consensus on the terms.
Yeah.
And then agriculture is not an easy ecosystem to work in. So we always appreciate when we have someone who already understands that and is willing to help us get to the level where at scale.
So then it can also go quicker.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe back to you as a person. Did it change you having this company?
How having the company?
Yeah.
I think it did, because now I have many more things that I think and worry about. So,
but still composure.
Yes, I think one of the things it changed is it's really hard for me to sort of switch off. Like where I would say I am on vacation, I am not thinking about SokoFresh for a day or two. That's a luxury I don't have yet. And so I'll just find myself trying to just have normal human conversations that are nothing to do with, the macro, micro things that impact on a business. I think the other one is getting to actually see the impact on the farmers really made me understand that we are doing something great. There's a farmer I visited, and we were doing market access for them. They grow mangoes in a very dry part of Kenya called Tharaka Nithi. And once we were done with like the harvesting is being done, they've been collected. He's like, so you are the owner of SokoFresh? And I'm like, yes. It's like he just calls his wife and tells his wife, go look for a chicken. We need to cook a chicken for this guy, because they have never had someone treat them with the level of dignity that we treated them, by making sure that our weighing scale was functional. Some things we take for granted, because someone will come to your farm, but they have a faulty weighing scale. So if something is 20 kilos, their weighing scale reads 15 and they pay you for 15. So that level of transparency, he was like, I have never been treated like this. So you deserve a chicken. And that's how we ate one of his chicken.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you really make an impact.
Yes, we do.
And for you, it's important that it's on a human level.
Yes.
I like it. I think that is a nice bridge to someone you look up to. Because you told me about your idol and you said, yes, he's a great businessman, but he's also a great person for the people around him. So as a little thank you for coming on our podcast, I have your idol.
Oh, amazing. Where did you get his photo?
As I said, I'm a good stalker for online stalking. I was trying to find a photo of you two together because you have met your idol.
Yeah.
Who is it?
Yes. So it's Professor Isaac Macharia.
Yeah. And I couldn't find a photo of you two together. You did meet. You were inspired by him. Why do you think he's such a great leader, and what do you learn from him?
Yes. So I think one, he has tried to be the best he can in the space or in his area of expertise. So he's an ENT surgeon, one of the best in Africa, but also in the financial space, steering one of the fastest growing banks in Africa. So what I learned from him is to really not settle for mediocrity, like to really become the best CEO that SokoFresh could ever have, but also do it with a high level of humility. Like, he's someone who I'm able to sit down with and ask questions about how do you run your own personal life, because oftentimes you could be celebrated outside, but have, at home, nobody is celebrating you because maybe you lost connection with your spouse or with your children, etc. So I've learned what to prioritize, even as life becomes busier, as responsibilities grow, as a company grows. So I think that really speaks to me in the phase of my life I am in, to both be a great husband, a great father, but also a great CEO.
Is there like a sentence or something that he said to you that sticks with you?
Yes. So there's one thing he once told me. This is maybe over a decade ago. And he was like, Dennis, regardless of how busy life becomes, try be home for dinner with your spouse and your children. And I asked him, like, why is that important? And he's like, those people need you as much as the world needs you. So he was like, even when life is so busy, he's like, I have blocked my schedule. It's on my calendar. I have to be home at this time to be able to have that connection. And he was like, you will have many opportunities to cancel that schedule. Don't. Yeah.
Okay, so we might need to speed up a little bit for you to be home. I like that. I think there's Christiana Figueres, who's an idol of mine. She was the Secretary General for the Paris Agreement, for the COP. And she said, take care of yourself, take care of the people around you, and then take care of the world. Because if you don't do the first or the second, there's no way you can do the third.
That's true.
It's similar to what he's saying. It's so important to have the right people around you.
Yeah.
And I feel you do.
Yes, I do. I'm so privileged.
That's really nice to hear. Maybe, okay, so I have 2 more sections to go. The one is, the podcast is called Redefining Success.
Yes.
Where we redefine success. And I'm really curious to hear, so do you want me to? I'll just put it here.
Okay.
I'm curious to find out, what is your definition of success?
Yeah, so you remember what I told you about when I'm old and frail and I'm seated out under a tree?
Yeah.
I want to have exhausted my potential. So for me, success is actually making the best use of my gifts and talents for humanity. So now it's in agriculture. Maybe in another phase, it will be solving another challenge, maybe a Pan-African Challenge, etc. But it's the fact that I want every season of my life for me to have given my very best. So as long as I've given my best, I think I'm successful.
And you decide that as well.
Yes,
That's
because
nice.
I know what
Yeah.
I'm capable of.
Yeah.
So if I feel I'm not really putting my best effort, I always have to go back and think I'm not doing justice to myself first.
I like that, because even if some things fail, and some things will fail because of things that happen around you, if you've done your best, it's still successful.
Yes, it is.
That's beautiful. I like that. Thank you for sharing. Then finally, the unanswered question. So before you, we had the founder of Hyapack, Joseph, and he was, I asked him a question that was on his mind. And I thought he's going to come up with a question on how do I secure more finance, or how do I scale this technology that I have. Instead, he asked this question to you. What would you do if you would hear that in 6 months from now you will die? What would you do differently?
Wow, that's a good question. I think I would continue doing what I do now, which is prioritizing my health, my family, the community around me. And then I think what I would do differently is really fast track a succession plan for SokoFresh, so that even when I'm gone, the company would be able to continue doing the great work.
And then the question after it was, now you have 2 years, not 6 months. Anything you would change?
Yes, in 2 years, I would have been able to have at least a year of coaching and working alongside the CEO of the business. I would have tried to find a solution to extend my life. Remember, I'm curious. I would have mixed all manner of concoctions.
You would have become a doctor and like solve everything.
Yeah, so yeah. And I would write a book.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
And then the final question is, why don't you do that in 6 months? But now that I hear what you're saying, I'm like, that's a lot.
Yeah, so yeah, I've actually toyed around with the idea of writing, especially like just writing a book about some of the lessons I've learned on leadership, on entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
I often feel I don't have enough content to fill it.
You do.
Because I want to write a big one. But I know I'm just, I know I could do it.
Yeah.
But I haven't been given that ultimatum yet.
Maybe the ultimatum isn't that you're gonna die. It's just that you need to start writing.
Yes.
I'm writing a book right now on the fashion industry and the beauty standards from the modeling industry. That's my background. I have to say, it's almost like a psychological process of writing. So while writing, you'll notice you'll have enough content to fill the book. There's an interesting story in everyone. So I think you should just start.
Okay. Yeah, I think I'll do so.
Nice. Then the final question is, what is your unfinished question? What is something that has been on your mind that you would like to ask the next guest in line?
Yeah, I think I will ask the next guests, what's their plan to get themselves out of the job they are currently doing? Yeah, so if they are the founder or CEO, how are they planning to not be the founder and CEO forever? Maybe the founder forever, but yeah, because I think oftentimes there'll come people who are brighter than you, they have more energy, and life is also about passing the baton to someone else. So what are they doing now? Do they have the realization that they need to start working on that baton passing? And what are they doing about it?
And is that something you want to work on, you don't know how, or is that something you're working on and you want to give that to someone else, that it's important to do?
Yes, I think for me, it's something I am thinking about. Yeah.
So maybe they have some tips.
Yes, hopefully.
All right, Dennis, I think that's it. But maybe do you have anything else that we didn't discuss? Any final thoughts, or are you happy?
I think I'm happy. Your questions are quite provocative.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, maybe it's Dutch directness.
Yes, I know. I'm used to the Dutch
Yeah.
dialect.
Well,
Yeah.
you've met the king and queen. I haven't. So in
Oh,
that
I'm
way,
so
you're
sorry for
more
you.
royal.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
But no, thanks for having me. No other questions.
I really enjoyed you having you as a guest. And I think your story is very inspiring, personal and professional. So thank you so much.
No, you're welcome.
This podcast was produced in partnership with Rabo Foundation, Stichting Doen en Rijksdienst voor Ondernemend Nederland. Production was done by Lumina Digital and it was recorded at Selina Lolo in Nairobi. Thank you for listening to the Green Times Redefining Success.